It's going to be
Yeah.
crazy. We are alive. That's what the prompt says. Andy Hall here with bigzebra.com. I've been busy. I've been doing things. I've been creating chaos. Big Zebra. That's what I've been doing.
You've been creating chaos. This is excellent.
Yes, yes, yes. I wrote the post billionaire declares war on oligarchs on Only
Oh,
Sky. And I don't know how long they're going to let me do what I do. I never know exactly what the limits are until people tell me to cut the crap. So, so
yeah.
I wrote the bit about, hey, what's up, Cindy Plaza and Bonnie and John Hudson. So I wrote the bit about Bruce Wayne deciding
Ah,
to declare war against American oligarchs. You see what I did there? It's the little
I think it's
switcheroo.
excellent.
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned it before that I saw the new Batman movie last
Mm.
weekend, and it did make an impression on me. It did make an impression on me, and so I thought, I vomited out, didn't vomit out, but I basically wrote out the whole bit last night.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
I've been trying.
vomited it.
No, I vomited it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
This is
just
Chris
kidding.
Black acting. Always good to see Chris Black around. So yeah, I've been I've been busy, and I made a short video today. I made like maybe an 18-second because I play around with that format too.
Hmm.
The really super quick shot videos, and sometimes they go viral. Sometimes they get good hits. So I did one on the story that we covered in the first show about abiogenesis, technical
Uh,
difficulties.
yeah. I want to say abiogenesis, but abiogenesis is, I think, the right pronunciation. And
Abiogenesis. Thank you.
I'm going to put a link to your lovely article that I'm about to read
Oh
into
yeah.
chat.
Oh, why?
There it
Thank you.
is. This is the
Woo!
oligarch
Yes.
attacking other oligarchs.
Yeah. So yeah, just been really creative and busy. When I was at work yesterday, I came up with a couple of more premises for jokes or for Only Sky bits. One of
Mm.
them, I'm going to tease this. Um, Ted Cruz chokes on his own slime. I think
I
that
like
see
that.
how is that not funny? Probably gonna write that one up tonight sometime. Because of course Ted
Another
Cruz.
good one would be America and Canada getting into a dispute over who has to take Ted Cruz.
Yeah. Well, that. Yeah. Yeah. Indeed.
You know,
Indeed.
which one? Maybe it would sort of be like instead of a tug of war, a push of war, rolling his corpulent carcass over the border back and forth.
Yep. Yep. It would be an interesting one of those pendulums, right? You see,
Mm.
be like a pendulum.
I found it strange that he wanted to run for president when he's obviously excluded from it.
You
He
know,
wasn't born in the U.S., full stop.
you would think that, sir. You would think that, but that's only if you pay attention to the law, right? There's
All
a
right.
lot of things. Oh my, I've said this so many times. I'm going to say it again. Politics trumps the law.
Mm.
That's if nothing else. You get enough of us monkeys to say that it's okay, then it doesn't matter what the law says. If people don't, if there isn't will
Mm.
to actually enforce the law, if there's no way to enforce the law, then it's anything can get done. You can do anything.
Yeah, there's a weird thing. My brother pointed out this to me, and I felt like a dullard when I realized it hadn't occurred to me. But somebody had broken various laws in the U.S. somewhere,
Mm.
and the issue came up where the judge ordered him brought in for contempt of court or some
Mm.
such thing,
Right.
and nothing happened. And nothing happened because the priest, Jesus, the police
Yeah.
just wouldn't enforce the order. We've got coffee to drink.
Sure.
You know,
Well,
I
and there are people who say, "Well, Andy, that wouldn't happen." It's like, let's not forget Andy Jackson, President Jackson. During the trail, well, just before the Trail of Tears, he basically said the Supreme Court, and this is not the only time that the President of the United States has not obeyed
mm,
the commands of the Supreme Court. But he's like, if the Supreme Court can enforce their ruling, go ahead. But Andy Jackson's just going to do what Andy Jackson's going to do. Yeah, that's a paraphrasing.
Yes.
That's a paraphrasing, but that's basically what happened.
Man, that is disturbing, and it sort of reminds me a bit of the almost constitutional crisis America had. What if just a few more people had gone Trump?
I'll tell you, and this just tells you how, there was a moment that it just came to me that we could think maybe the most important person in this drama was Mike Pence, right? That Mike Pence actually did the right thing. Who would have thought?
A good time to do it.
Yeah, who would have thought that Mike Pence did the right thing in the clutch, right? In when he's in the pocket, and there's tons of people telling him to do one thing or the other thing. He finds his backbone and says, "No, I'm just gonna do the certification thing."
Maybe he'd had 4 years of playing second fiddle to a lunatic and nodding his head in agreement all this time.
Yeah.
With someone he knew was bad for the country, but didn't have the courage to do anything about it.
Yep.
And then finally found his balls. So good for him,
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's and I don't sing Mike Pence's praises that often because there isn't much new praise. And I don't but I guess this is going to be the show where Andy just talks about all those unpopular opinions that he doesn't talk about that often. But Mike Pence could have saved the republic. He could have been the guy. He could have been the linchpin right there on January 6th.
Yeah, maybe the history books will ultimately speak well of him.
Maybe.
Man. I would have been much more inclined to expect Mike Pence to support some sort of bill against trans people or make abortion even harder to get.
Yeah. Well, you would sure all that's within his wheelhouse, no doubt about that. But I think, and you brought up an important point.
I did.
Is that you did about politics being so personal, right? Politics, especially when you get to a certain level. That it's Darth Templeman. Here we go. What's up, Darth Templeman?
Wow!
No sound, no audio now either. He's trying. He's fighting I don't know if he's fighting the Jedi or no. He's making a good faith attempt.
And he's gone. Well, he was here for a short time.
Yeah, that's all we are. Yeah. Do you think Pence would have done the same thing if he hadn't been hanging Pence people outside? That's a very good point, Cindy Plaza. I don't know.
Jeez. I think Pence had already refused to overturn the election by that time. So I think he did the right thing, and then people threatened to hang him.
Yeah.
That's how I recall it.
Chris Black Acting says, I suspect he didn't know they were chanting hang Pence. Did he know? That's another good question. I'm sure that when he walked in to certify the election, he knew what he was getting himself into. That's what I'm going to say. He might be evil, but he's not stupid. Wow. So many nice things I'm saying about Mike Pence today. So he knew that he was in the cauldron, right? He knew what was going on. And he made his choice before he walked in, I'm sure. Now, this is another interesting question. So let's say that Pence decided not to certify the election. Well, that means,
instant constitutional crisis. You don't even have to add water.
You wouldn't have to add water. The water would have already been added. So yeah, you would have an issue. Have you ever been involved in any kind of legal matter and suddenly you're not using the boilerplate document that you need to make amendments? It all gets to be chaos, right? Because people now have to start thinking on them for themselves, and people have to start on the fly making choices as against to just going on the plan. People like using the plan because that means they don't have to think that much. So if suddenly Mike Pence said, I'm not going to certify the election, there goes the plan. So what are they going to do? It's going to be chaos. And so, that would just give Trump more wiggle room to create more chaos. Yeah.
And that crowd he managed to assemble around the Capitol, it was pretty large. It was large enough. And that deliberate, when they asked for the National Guard to help prior
Yeah.
to it,
Yeah.
and just not responding. And then, of course, the guy in charge of Capitol security gets fired.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's so typical. You could see it coming from way off.
Sure. Everyone needs scapegoats. And yeah.
Mm. Okay, so it's Friday. Have you got anything
Yeah.
fantastic this weekend?
I'm trying
Maybe
to.
sleep.
My God, you can just see how my stress response when I start like touching my
Oh, I'm
face,
sorry.
just
I'm
like this.
sorry.
No. This is not a you thing. This is a me thing. This
Sleep.
is.
Go to sleep. After work, come home and go right to bed. Have a good
Um,
snooze.
I definitely. Oh, Cindy Plaza says I definitely think he wants a theocracy, but he doesn't want to implement it in an illegal way.
Maybe.
Yep.
Also, I think he wants it up the butt, but he doesn't have the guts to ask for it.
A little tangential right there, but I would agree
Oh, I
with.
think it's on point, sir. That's awful. I am a really
I'm gonna touch my
bad
face a
zebra.
lot this morning. So two things. Yes, he would probably three things. One, I think once again the politics of personality does matter, and back to what Zeb was saying is that yeah, he probably took enough shit from Donald J. Trump for the last 4 years, and if he was going to install an American Ayatollah, someone to head a theocracy, it would not be Donald J. Trump. That's what I think. So Pence would want a theocracy. Yeah. A legal way? Sure. Quote unquote legal, whatever, it would be more legal than the way that he was going to do it than the way it was getting done. But that's, I mean, here's the thing. When you look at revolutions, right, throughout history, there comes moments that you have to pull the trigger, right? And you see it with like with the Bolsheviks, for an example. I always go back to the Bolsheviks. So that's one model where there is a violent insurrection after a lot of road work. The Nazis, of course, was an example of a group who tried to do it the violent way and then went through a legal method. And even
barely legal, like in the porn film.
And even when we talk about quote unquote legal methods, it's still a lot of violence. There's still a lot of illegality going on there, bubbling underneath the surface.
Well, Kristallnacht is a good example.
Kristallnacht, having a private militia and army to bully and beat people that didn't agree with them. So yeah, that sounds like the Trump model, potentially the Trump model. I don't know. It's a Friday.
I sometimes think that the Nazis had
I just want to say
part
yes
of their success to when they had the Night of the Long Knives, where the SS didn't want the brown shirts to sort of be in charge or be too powerful because they wanted the power for themselves.
Yeah.
Hitler agreed, and they murdered a whole bunch of brown shirts in the night.
Well, yeah,
and of course, the lesson from every act of violence and bullying is that you are next. So it really reinforced sort of power comes from the Führer, you do what he says.
Right. And there are many similarities between Trump's style of running a government and, let's say, Hitler's style of running a government. With Trump, there was like this chaos within the administration that people were jockeying to get his ear for support. And Hitler did the same thing. And you could see that's kind of system with the Night of the Long Knives. Before he became like the leader of Germany. It was the fact that other Nazis were jockeying for position, and they saw Ernst Röhm, head of the SA, as a threat, and they worked out a way to convince Hitler just to get rid of the guy and to purge the party. So, to Chris Black acting, would Pence have supported overturning the election if Trump had been more pious and based on his authoritarian administration with more of a Christian religious bent? I would say so. That was like a quick yes for me, Chris Black. I think Pence would have been much more likely to go along I keep fearing the moment where the South of the U.S. want a theocracy more than actually. Well, here's the trick, right, Cindy Plaza, is that the theocrats have been able to convince, um, the core of the Republican Party that theocracy is the United States of America, that this is a nation, that this is a Christian country, that this is a Jesus-led nation. And we saw it in, there's a bunch of videos of Rachel Ham, that lunatic that we covered in the first show, talking about the fascist, the Christo-fascist talking points, that this is a war between good and evil, between Republicans and Democrats. And yeah, it's scary. It's scary.
I just feel so odd about it that you can have, I can't remember the so-called historian's name. I think his name is Barton something or something Barton. And he insists that the Constitution was inspired by the Old Testament and Moses. And asserts it as fact. Everyone nods, and they go right along. And telling people things that are not true, whether wittingly or unwittingly, does incredible damage in the long run.
Oh yeah. Well, what it does, it creates this culture of, there are certain characteristics of fascism, and one of them is, of course, having these grievances, right? There's having grievances against your class or racial enemies. There's this aspiration to living in this kind of fantasy land, this past, this fantastic past, the heroic past. And I know who you're talking about, that historian. He's obviously, I wouldn't call him a useful fool. He was just a propagandist for the right. And they create havoc. They create long-term damage.
I do like the way people respond to it, though, when people start putting, as Tobin mentioned, his hometown as crosses on the courthouse.
Yeah.
And I've seen pictures of where people have, well, since you're going to put religious things on them, let's have a Hindu one. And then there was a magnificent statue of the flying spaghetti monster that was made. And you gotta allow it. If you allow one, and then there's the wonderful work of the Satanic Temple, that when people put crossword puzzles for Jesus in the school's supply system, they do crossword puzzles for Satan, or whatever they call it.
The after-school Satan program. Yeah.
I would go to that program.
I just want to tell you about why I just want to go back to my narcissistic point about what I had plans for this weekend. So I've been just trying to organize just a simple sit down, hang out with my kids over the weekend. And now I'm juggling my son's schedule, my daughter's schedule. And it's actually my shitty schedule is just basically just hang out, maybe have a couple of drinks over the weekend, right? But just trying to get all that stuff. And of course, getting my taxes done. And so, yeah.
Right. Yeah. That is hard. Also, everyone has their own schedules. What do you do? Schedule a night with your family like 2 months in advance?
Well, like, you would think if someone was more organized than me, they would have a better system. But I'm just muddling through it.
Yeah, well, that works too, I think.
Yeah, it is after school Satan program. That is a real thing. Chris Black acting. After school
wonderful.
Satan.
It's wonderful.
It's meant to fight. What is it? The Bible Club or whatever it is. The Christo-fascist clubs that they have for kids after school in some districts.
Yeah, it's sort of a way to recruit kids into your happy Jesus time.
Good News Club. I think that's what it's called.
Oh, okay.
The Good News Club. So yeah, the after school Satan is a direct response to the Good News Club.
I like it. I hope people attend it.
Yeah. It's good. Every once in a while you'll see a story about it, about, controversy. I think there was a story maybe 6 months ago about an after school Satan club in Indiana. And of course people were losing their freaking minds about it.
Oh no, they should be told you're in favor of this because other religions can have it. Look at this Jesus club.
Yeah, right. Well, that's different because Jesus is American.
Oh, right, I forget. Yeah,
Right.
he and he served in the American military proudly. He's a
He
big supporter.
did. Yes, a huge supporter. Republican Jesus loves Republican Jesus wars. That's what he does.
I remember a comedian making a joke how Jesus invented the kung fu grip, and
Okay. So the Kung Fu grip, for those of you who aren't our age,
mm,
um, were in these. I remember them from GI. I had a GI Joe action figure, not
exactly.
a doll. Thank you very much. When I was a kid,
Yes.
and it had the Kung Fu grip. So it's kind of like, well, I'm not doing anything rude here. This is how the Kung Fu grip works. You could put something in the action figure's hand,
Mm.
and that's how they made what amounted to a doll even more masculine. Yes, the Kung Fu grip.
How is it that it's just the two of us today? Whenever two or three are not gathered in his name, of course, but
Well, Tobin has modem issues, I believe,
mm, hmm
and so yeah. So and I've been doing this for how long? A year or so? Over a year.
yes,
And so people's schedules change. You know,
they do.
um,
They do.
and so I will keep doing this up as long as people keep showing up. Basically, at least that's my plan, and as long as my schedule allows it, because sometimes there's always a chance that my schedule gets changed because of work.
Mm.
You know,
Maybe
yeah,
we should go clout chasing. I know Dr. Josh. Maybe we can get him on the show, or you can interview him.
yeah. I've talked with Dr. Josh before. He's been on the channel before.
Oh, okay.
I've
Well, never
been,
mind then.
the issue I have is that between the Only Sky stuff, the
Yes.
video stuff, and just writing too, because the Only Sky stuff, there's more stuff behind the scenes I do, so that actually makes that's a lot of stuff on my plate. And actually, I'll
Yes.
tell you this. I've had one conversation and then listened to a podcast recently about two people just basically quitting. One guy, and I don't want to tell tales out of school. One of them is Chris Revel, who does a podcast from Providence, Rhode Island. He's a good guy, works in human services, and
Hmm.
he's basically leveled up so that he's making money doing consulting work. So he's not going to be podcasting as much. He's still going to be
Mm.
doing like once or twice a year, maybe dropping a new episode. But he is effectively stepping back from doing his show. And so
Mm.
another person who I will not disclose, since I don't know if he's made this public or not, decided that he's not going to be making content anymore too, because it's tough. It's tough to do content day after day.
Sure. Oh, well,
And
video editing alone.
yeah,
What if
well,
you're doing video editing?
this is what and you probably have heard me say this many times, is that if you are a content creator, then I would say probably your biggest enemy is burnout.
Mm.
Your biggest enemy is burnout, and so you have to be able to pace yourself. Like when I had kids, like young kids, the only thing I did was that I would dedicate maybe an hour a day of writing a funny post, and that was it, because my kids were young and I
Yes.
was working like two jobs and I was hustling. So, but now that I'm older and I have less responsibility, I can do more stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, Chris, it's difficult, brother. It's difficult. Burnout is difficult, and it's all about it's a marathon with sprints. It's the shittiest version of a marathon and sprinting at the same time. That's what creating content is.
Yes, and there are the days when instead of inspiration, it's just completely craft,
Oh yeah,
and it doesn't come singing out of your fingertips into the keyboard.
yeah. Well, that's another, and you can tell, the difference between someone who's a professional, right, or who treats the job, who treats this professionally, as against to someone who
Hmm.
doesn't, is the fact that you will do the work whether or not you feel inspired or not.
Yes.
I mean, it's great when you are inspired. It's great when you do feel the muse. But
Mhm.
if you're supposed to show up and do a show, then just do the effing show, and do your best at it.
Right.
But that's tough to do when you're not getting paid, or you're getting paid very low amounts. For a lot of people, I can see that.
Mm,
I'm psychotic
man.
though. I just like doing it.
Oh Lord. The uh I thought I would look through the news and see if there was something interesting to talk about, and it's
Yeah.
so horrible.
Well, there was, I saw, and I didn't cover this in the first show, but there was the story, and I don't know if anyone else saw it, about the Russian ship that got sabotaged while in port in Ukraine.
Oh,
It
I
was a
heard something about that.
Yeah,
Can you give
it
us
was pretty
details?
stunning video. It was pretty stunning video, amateur video, people just taking out their phones and filming it. But there was a
Mm,
Russian ship. I believe it was a troop transport ship. It could carry like 20 tanks or whatever, and a bunch of or people or transporters, armored transport personnel to carry transporters. But basically, what happened is that and this is really funny. The Russian news was basically stated, hey, here we are in Ukraine, and this is a great ship, and this ship is doing good work for Putin and whatever. And
mhm.
so the Ukrainians decided that they knew where the ship was. And so they blew a big effing hole in it. I think they destroyed it, to tell you the truth.
Well, here's hoping it's at the bottom, and if it was filled with tanks before it went down, so much the better.
Yeah.
The
And I
Well, I was thinking
believe,
that the Russians are only there to fight Nazis, so these
right.
Nazis must be pretty tough.
Oh yeah, they must be. And the thing is too is that there were two ships close, because they're all docked when the explosion happened. So two other ships got damaged by the explosion too, and were
Mm.
on fire. And the thing is, if you know anything about the Russian Navy, it's not as powerful. It's and ships are effing expensive.
Oh,
Ships are expensive. Planes are expensive. And the number that I heard, that once again, is that Russia is like going through $20 billion a day fighting in
interesting.
Ukraine, and that's a lot of money for, once again, an economy the size of Italy.
Yes.
That's
I,
having sanctions. That's being suffering under sanctions.
of course, with Russia, the government may have to spend $20 billion a day, but maybe you buy supplies from somewhere and don't pay them.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, when you look at long-term kind of conflicts, it's typically the country with the largest economy or the most resilient economy is going
Mm.
to win. Um, you can see it in the Cold War. You can see it in a variety of different conflicts.
I like the fact that the West can help at least with asymmetrical warfare,
Oh yeah,
where a $50,000 weapon takes out an $8 million tank or
oh
a
yeah,
plane.
yeah.
It's actually really interesting to me, because what if the Russians switched tactics and just made it a troop war,
Mhm.
and they couldn't deploy their tanks because they're too easily destroyed. They can't deploy planes because they're too easily destroyed. So now you've got guys with rifles and AK-47s
Mhm.
marching in, and then you have missiles from far behind the lines firing at cities. Which is what they're doing now.
So this is interesting. This is about now for those of you who are skeptics. I think what out of the 10, 12 of us here, we're all skeptics, right? You can tell there is the moving of the goalposts, right?
Yeah,
So at first it was complete regime change in Ukraine, and now they just announced they will focus on the complete freeing of the Donbass region, which is pretty much something that they more or less had, or they were
mm,
pretty close. So this is, as the Russians are facing more and more resistance, they're moving the goalposts back so that they can declare victory over something that they were, over a very minor goal. Yeah.
sure. Declare victory and leave.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. Um, I hate that Russia would end up with control of those two regions. There was Donbas. I can't pronounce it.
Yeah, that's
And
the two province there in that.
yeah, there were two of those. And it just bothers me that Ukraine loses Crimea and then loses two eastern regions as well.
All right. On that note, I'm going to have to close up the show because we got to get ready for work by doing more work. Hey, it's American dysfunctional capitalism playing out right here. See you later, everyone. Thanks, Big Zebra. Thanks,
Hey,
Jack.
thanks to you too. Shamala Hamala, as the tradition goes. Yeah.
Shamala hamala. All right. Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.